Have you ever felt like you're just stuck? You're trying to learn something new, a language, an instrument, maybe a skill for work, and you just hit a wall where the progress grinds to a halt? It's so frustrating, right? Well, what if there's a smarter way to learn? Today, we're jumping into Scott H. Young's work to unpack a powerful playbook for mastering just about anything.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? Think about it. We can spend years, even decades, driving a car or typing on a keyboard, and we don't really get any better. So why does progress sometimes feel like a total slog? Or worse, like it's not happening at all?
This line really nails it. Learning isn't this clean, straight line going up and to the right. No, it's messy, it's unpredictable, and we've all been there. But what if we could bring a little order to that chaos? The argument here is that we absolutely can, but it means we have to challenge some of our most common beliefs about how learning actually works. All right, so our first big idea, it's a bit counterintuitive, especially today when everyone is obsessed with originality. We're always told, be creative, find your own voice, right, from the get-go. But what if that's the very thing that's holding you back? So this is the myth we need to bust. This pressure to be this brilliant visionary from the moment you start it can be completely paralyzing. It forces you to try and reinvent the wheel, to solve every problem from scratch, when there's a much faster, much more effective way to build your foundation. So here's the smarter way. We need to totally flip the script. Just think about the old Renaissance art apprentices. They didn't show up on day one and try to paint their own Mona Lisa. No. They started by meticulously copying the works of the masters. See, imitation isn't the enemy of creativity. It's the seed from which real originality eventually grows.
And this is how you do it smartly. You don't just mindlessly trace, you study the grades to see how they did what they did. You look for what are called worked examples, like in a math textbook where they show you the step-by-step solution. It reveals the thinking process. You have to master the fundamentals, the craft, before you can even think about breaking the rules. Okay, so you've started building that solid foundation by copying the best. So how do you keep the engine running? That brings us to our second big idea. And this one tackles another one of those popular mantras we hear all the time, the idea that we learn best from our failures. Now, this is so interesting because it flies in the face of that whole fail-forward culture. The research shows that if you're just failing over and over and over again, especially at the beginning, it doesn't build grit. It builds avoidance. It teaches your brain, hey, I'm no good at this, and you're way more likely to just quit. So the smarter path is to focus on building competence, which then builds real, earned confidence. Now, this isn't about running away from challenges, not at all. It's about being strategic and engineering some early wins to build momentum. The goal is to create a track record of success that actually fuels your motivation to keep going. And this all boils down to a super important psychological concept called self-efficacy. This isn't just some vague, fuzzy confidence. It's your specific, concrete belief that you can accomplish the task right in front of you. That belief, that's the engine that drives persistence. So how do we get more of it? Well, researchers found that while a lot of things can influence it, the number one most powerful driver by a long shot is personal mastery. It's you actually experiencing success for yourself. It's so much more powerful than the weakest driver, which is just verbal persuasion. Someone patting you on the back saying, you can do it. Nothing builds real confidence like actually seeing yourself succeed with your own two eyes. And here's exactly how you put that into practice. You have to start small. Master the easy stuff first. Really aim for a high success rate before you even think about cranking up the difficulty. I love this analogy. Think of your motivation like a fire. You can't start a fire with a giant, heavy log. It'll just smother the spark. You need kindling, small sticks. But once you have a roaring fire, then you can throw on those heavy logs, the really tough challenges. So we know we need to copy first to build a solid base. And then we need to use small successes to build that roaring fire of motivation. But how do you actually tend the fire? How do you practice? And that leads us to our final section, where we're going to bust one more huge myth, the idea that just repeating something over and over is the key. We've all heard it a million times, right? Practice makes perfect. But we also all know someone who has practiced a terrible golf swing or a bad habit for years, and they never ever got any better. That's because mindless repetition doesn't make you perfect. It just makes your current habits permanent, flaws and all. The much smarter path is structured, variable practice.
What does that mean? It means instead of doing the exact same thing over and over again, you intentionally mix it up. You practice the skill in different situations, under different conditions. This is what builds a flexible, adaptable skill that actually works in the real world, not just a rigid one that only works in one specific scenario. This quote from the jazz legend Wynton Marsalis is just perfect. Jazz improvisation seems like the most spontaneous, creative thing in the world, doesn't it? But it's actually built on this incredibly deep foundation of theory and scales and patterns. True flexibility, true creativity, it comes from mastering the structure, not from ignoring it. So how do we do this in our own lives? Well, if you're studying, don't just drill one type of problem for an hour. Mix them all up. There's this powerful learning concept called contextual interference, and basically just forces your brain to work a little harder to find the answer. And that struggle is what builds a much stronger, more flexible memory. The same goes for anything. Play tennis with different people to see different styles. And always, always try to understand the why behind what you're doing. That's how you build real mastery. Okay, let's pull all of this together. We have just dismantled 3 of the biggest myths that hold people back. The pressure to be original, the idea that you have to fail constantly, and the belief in mindless repetition. So now, let's put these new insights together into a simple, actionable playbook that you can start using literally today. Here it is, your 4-step guide to getting better. Number 1, copy first. Find the masters and learn their craft. 2, build success. Start small, get those wins, and create that positive momentum. 3, vary your practice. Don't get stuck in a rut, build flexible skills. And number 4, and this is crucial, seek feedback. Always be checking if what you're doing is actually working. You see, the path to mastery isn't about having some magical innate talent. It's about having a smarter strategy. It's about being deliberate and intentional in how you learn. So the only question left is, with this new playbook in your hands, what are you going to choose to master next?